Tonight, I'm gonna try to get out of a creative rut by working on a fun, easy to piece quilt pattern that I designed. The best part is it's free. Let's get to it. So this quilt is the Feathered Arrows quilt, and it may look similar to the quilt I did during the gift along series I did for Bluprint called Crisscross, but it's not. There's some little twists, such as a lot of negative space and area to work with. I'm gonna use these beautiful Boundless Rhapsody colors. I know they're purple, but as you know, I'm past that. I'm actually kind of digging the color, especially with the white background, which is gonna let the quilting shine. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting these up into little sections, and then we'll see how the first feathered arrow comes together. So this pattern uses pre-cut strips, which means I don't have to do a lot of cutting, and it's a great stash buster. So I'm gonna start by taking some of my beautiful fabrics, and I'm gonna set a few aside for binding, and there will also be some longer strips in the pattern, so I'll set those aside for now. And all the rest are gonna get cut into the same exact size. You know what that means? No thinking. Love it when it's easy. I wouldn't say that I'm in a rut. I've kind of lost my quilting mojo. I mean, have you ever had that happen where you just kind of make the same projects over and over again, or you don't feel particularly inspired? Well, I know when that happens to me, the best thing to do is to start a project, preferably something small and quick to piece, so I get that sense of accomplishment. So the background fabric is also going to be cut into strips, just slightly narrower strips, about 1.5 inches. Once I have those cut up, I'll be able to show you how this comes together to make the first side of my feathered arrow. I've got a lot of strips, but how they come together is a little off-center. Let me show you what it looks like. So the first part of my feathered arrow needs a tippy top point, so I'm gonna set the bigger strips aside and use my smaller strips. Now, I love a scrappy look to this, so I'm just picking some random colors, but if you had a little bit more perfectionist tendencies, you could do some color placement. But basically, I'm just gonna put some prints with some little strips of fabric in between, little strips of the white, and that's gonna give me the first unit. This, super easy. I'm just gonna sew it together, and then I'll have the first part of my block already done. All right, a quick press, and that block is finished. Love it when it comes together so easily. But the next part of the feather, it's not difficult, it just needs a little bit more room to grow. So I'm gonna move this out of the way so I can show you how it lays out. So I have all my fabrics laid out. I've taken some time to arrange it just a little bit because we know I love a little fabric fondling. But the one thing that's the most important with this is that the top needs to have the background strip. So this is exactly what I want to look like. Now it's gonna end up being on the angle, but here's the thing, I don't like doing angles, so I'm gonna stagger everything to the side and then trim it up so that I'm still just sewing straight lines, but with a little bit of a twist. So with all my units, from the top, it's gonna move over about 1.5 inches or 2 inches until I get to the bottom. Then I'm gonna sew that whole unit together. I'll have a wonky looking piece, but then I'll trim it up and you'll see the first part of my feathered arrow. So I'm just eyeballing the 1.5 to 2 inches because here's the thing, there's plenty of wiggle room in these strips. So even if it's off a little bit, we're gonna trim it down a little bit smaller. However, if that made you a little high-V in the back of your neck, you can use a little marking utensil and put a dot where that 2-inch line is. So I'm almost halfway there. I'm gonna press these, sew them all together, and then I'll have a wonky strip set. Now this left side is finished. All that I have to do now is do the reverse for the other side and trim them up. So let me show you how easy it is to do that. For this part, I pulled out the biggest mat and ruler I have because I'm gonna trim it at a 45-degree angle. Now I know geometry this late at night does not sound like fun, but it's actually pretty easy because the ruler has a line on there for me. So taking my strip set, I'm gonna align the bottom edge so that it's parallel with one of these lines because that's gonna be the guide for my 45-degree angle. Then taking my ruler, I'm gonna set that 45-degree line so that's even with the edge of my fabric. And that's gonna give me that 45-degree angle. And this is where the moment of truth comes in, and you can see if your eyeballing has been just a little bit off. Because when I slide this over and I cut, I realize I'm missing a lot of these chunks. Now I know that the whole strip setter is supposed to be about 8 inches wide, and I don't think it's gonna make it. What I'm actually gonna do is take this strip section off, move it over just a tidge, and then see how it works. I was thinking my creative mojo was back. Obviously my piecing mojo isn't back. Ooh, let me get that fixed up real quick, and then we'll trim this thing. Okay, so I have adjusted my strip unit just a bit. What can I say? I'm writing this as I go. And now I'm going to finally trim it up and just cross my fingers it works out. Honestly, whatever width it comes out, that's just what I'm gonna make the pattern say. You ever have one of those days when you're making a quilt and you feel like nothing is going right? It's happening right. Okay, so let's reverse this, turn it around. I'm sure it doesn't matter, but you know. Okay, I'm gonna line that 45-inch line along the bottom of the fabric again. Position it, and then when I make my cut right here, that's gonna give me that nice 45-degree angle. But here's the important thing. I don't feel like I can handle another mistake at this moment. I wanna make sure that all these edges, all these points, are on the other side of my ruler so I don't have any gaps in the quilt. All right, once I have the ruler in place, it looks good. I'm just going to cut along that side and then reposition the ruler. I'm using the 45-degree lines as a reference, lining it up on that edge, and then continuing till the whole thing is trimmed. And then I have some fun festive party garland for something. All right, now I'm gonna take a second and I'm gonna measure 8 3/4 inches over along the edge and then trim another line that way. Make a little mark, and I'm gonna do the same on the other side. Then I'm gonna connect the dots and have my first part done. And you can start to see the feathered arrow, hence the name of the pattern. And one thing I've done is I've made the fabric placement a little scrappy. I haven't taken the time to lay it out exactly right. If you wanted to, you could match up these fabrics for more of a chevron look. I think that would look amazing. In fact, I think I might have to make this pattern again. Okay, the next part's gonna go up here. That's that adorable little piece we made earlier. Even though it was a little stressful, I'm loving how this pattern's turning out. I know you don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, but what do you think so far? Is this something you think you might like to make? You know you can get the pattern for free by checking out the description box below. So I'm gonna take these two sides, put them together, but I'm gonna start my seam 1/4 inch from the edge, leaving a little bit of that unpieced. And since it's gonna be very noticeable if these are not kind of perfect-ish, I'm gonna take a second and use my little clips to help hold those seams in place. I'm gonna take a little back stitch to help secure it, and then sew as normal, all the way to the end. I'm gonna press those seams to the right, and then we're gonna add the top to our feather. Next, I'll take this piece, fold it right sides together, and I'm gonna sew, stopping 1/4 inch away on this side, and then doing the same on the other side. I'll press this, and then we'll add pieces of the background to make this a nice rectangular shape. First, we'll add some oversized triangles to the sides. These are cut just a little bit bigger so that you have a little bit wiggle room. And we're gonna do that on the top and bottom. And then to finish up this feathered arrow, a nice big chunk of the background is gonna go below, and that's gonna make the first column of our quilt. I cannot wait to quilt all that space. And there, my first column is all finished. The next column I made just the exact same way. The only difference is the extra fabric went on the other side of the column, so this will actually be the third column. And the piece that pulls it all together is this beautiful middle section. Now, I made this exactly the same way, with the same strip sets, offset for each side, the background pieces. The only difference is I have a little bit of a straight line here. It's super easy, just a little trim, a little inset, no problem. Of course, you'll know how to do it because you're gonna download the free pattern, right? So I have my sashing strips pieced nice and big so that I can adjust them how I want and trim them down. And then I'll sew the border pieces on, and we'll see what this quilt top looks like when it's finished. Now that's what I call a beautiful, quick quilt that's just begging for some machine quilting. So I'm gonna get it basted and we'll get right to it. The great thing about machine quilting is it can really bring the inspiration of the quilt to life. It kind of has an architectural look right now, but I'm gonna soften it up by quilting it with feather designs. And nothing gets your creative mojo flowing like purple thread on white fabric. I know it breaks every rule that I've ever given, but I think that purple thread is really gonna help pull it all together. Well, let's see if I can't turn this into a feather. I'm gonna start by quilting a straight line, traveling on the edge of the quilt, and then echoing back up, and that's gonna form the bottom of my feather. Adding a curvy look with a serpentine line is as easy as quilting a line that curves out and back from side to side with that serpentine shape. Alternating directions will give it a beautiful texture as I work my way down the area, filling it all in. Well, there we go. We can see the quilt. It looks fun and beautiful, but I'm gonna break thread and move up here and do the same thing in these stripes of fabric in the rest of the feather. going to start by quilting more serpentine lines in the strip of fabric, alternating direction and filling it in until I work to the opposite end. From there, I'm going to keep that same purple thread and quilt more of those serpentine lines within the white area. This is really going to add a beautiful texture and bring me back to the center of my feather so that I can do the next side. Now in the fabric print, since I have serpentine lines on one side, I'm going to alternate it with some straight echo lines just to give it a little bit of a contrast. But in that white, I'm going to keep with that same pretty purple serpentine line, filling that area in as completely as possible. In the longer strips, I'm going to quilt the same feather look with just a different shape. It's going to be a line that curves out, traveling back, and then curving back to the other side. So basically, I'm quilting my feather petals in groups of 2. Quilting my line that curves out, traveling back, swinging out to quilt the next one, and coming back into that side. And I'm going to continue that along the whole strip. So I'm playing around with a bunch of different textures, a pretty purple thread, but don't worry, I'm not going to use that over the whole quilt. I think what I'm going to do is keep adding these textures in the feathers and then come back and use white to fill in the rest. Well, I can feel my mojo is finally back, so I'm going to get this finished and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. I think it's safe to say that my creative mojo is back. I didn't even mind adding this beautiful binding to the quilt. Between the gorgeous fabrics, the solid white, and of course all that fun time quilting with the purple and white thread to create such a beautiful texture with those serpentine lines, I would say tonight is a win. Now you can get your mojo back as well with the free pattern. Don't forget, you can find all the details about that in the description box below. Well, now that my mojo's back, I'll be back soon with another episode of the Midnight Quilt Show.